The January wind howled through Manhattan's concrete canyons, bitter and unforgiving. Emily Roberts pulled her thin coat tighter around her shoulders, fighting back tears as she pressed her son Noah closer to her chest. The baby's warm breath against her neck was both a comfort and a reminder of the impossible situation she faced. "It's okay, sweet boy," she whispered, her words forming clouds in the freezing air. "Mommy's got you." Her phone buzzed again, another message from her babysitter, Carmen, apologizing for getting the flu. Emily couldn't blame her, but that didn't solve her problem. No daycare would take Noah on such short notice, and she couldn't afford to lose this job, not when rent was due in 3 days. The Griffin Enterprises building loomed ahead, its gleaming glass facade stretching towards the steel-gray sky. Emily had been cleaning these offices for the past 6 months, arriving before dawn to vacuum carpets and wipe down surfaces before the corporate world stirred to life. It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid better than most cleaning jobs, and her supervisor, Regina, was understanding, at least until now. Emily's hands trembled as she swiped her employee badge at the service entrance. The weight of Noah in his carrier seemed to multiply with each step. She'd brought everything she could think of to keep him quiet: bottles, diapers, his favorite stuffed elephant, even the teething ring he'd been obsessed with lately. If she could just get through this one day. "Emily?" Regina's voice cut through her thoughts. The older woman stood in the doorway of the employee locker room, her usually kind face creased with concern. "What's going on?" "Regina, I'm so sorry." The words tumbled out in a rush. "My babysitter has the flu, and I couldn't find anyone else. I know it's against policy, but I swear he'll be quiet. I'll work twice as fast, I'll stay late, anything." Regina held up a hand, her expression torn between sympathy and worry. "You know I can't let you bring him onto the floors. Corporate policy is strict about—" "Please," Emily's voice cracked. "I can't lose this job. Noah and we don't have anyone else." Something in Regina's face softened. She glanced at her watch, then down the hallway. "Listen carefully. Mr. Griffin doesn't usually arrive until 9. If you can finish the executive floor before then, I will. Thank you, Regina. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet. Just be careful." "And Emily?" Regina's eyes were serious. "Lucas Griffin isn't known for his understanding nature. If he finds out—" Emily nodded, her throat tight. Everyone knew about Lucas Griffin, the ruthless CEO who doubled the company's profits in just 5 years. His reputation for cold efficiency was legendary, matched only by his notorious privacy and disdain for personal entanglements. The executive floor was eerily quiet as Emily pushed her cleaning cart out of the service elevator, Noah securely strapped to her chest. The morning light was just beginning to paint the sky in shades of pink and gold, visible through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Any other day she might have paused to admire the view. Today, she moved with desperate efficiency, dusting surfaces and emptying trash bins while humming softly to keep Noah calm. Everything was going according to plan until she reached the CEO's office. The massive space was immaculate as always, with its sleek modern furniture and commanding views of the city. Emily had just finished wiping down the glass desk when Noah began to fuss. "Shh, baby, please," she whispered, bouncing gently. "Just a few more minutes." But Noah had other ideas. His whimpers grew louder, building towards the full-throated cry she'd been dreading. Emily abandoned her cleaning supplies, frantically searching for his pacifier. In her haste, she knocked over a stack of files on Griffin's desk. No. She dropped to her knees, trying to gather the scattered papers while holding Noah. The baby's cries echoed off the glass walls, and Emily's heart pounded so hard she almost didn't hear the office door open. "What the hell is going on here?" The voice was deep, cold, and unmistakable. Emily froze, still on her knees, papers clutched in her trembling hands. Slowly, she raised her eyes to meet Lucas Griffin's steely gaze. He stood in the doorway, like an avenging angel in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, his dark hair slightly windblown and his jaw clenched in obvious anger. At 35, he was younger than most CEOs, but there was nothing youthful about his expression as he surveyed the scene before him. "Mr. Griffin," Emily stammered, struggling to her feet. "I'm so sorry, Why is there a child in my office?" His voice cut through Noah's cries like a blade. "He's my son. My babysitter is sick and I couldn't—" Emily's explanation was cut short as Noah's wails increased in volume. She could feel her job slipping away with each tear her son shed. Something flickered in Griffin's eyes, an emotion too quick to name. He stepped forward, and Emily instinctively backed away, bumping into his desk. To her utter shock, he didn't start yelling. Instead, he did something completely unexpected. He reached for Noah. "May I?" The question was soft, almost gentle, so different from his earlier tone that Emily wondered if she was hallucinating. Before she could process what was happening, Lucas Griffin, the most feared CEO in New York, was carefully lifting her son from his carrier. Noah's cries hitched for a moment as he stared up at this stranger with wide, tear-filled eyes. Griffin held him with surprising confidence, one large hand supporting the baby's head, while the other patted his back in a soothing rhythm. "It's all right, little man," he murmured, his voice taking on a warmth Emily wouldn't have believed possible. "Rough morning, isn't it?" Gradually, Noah's cries subsided to hiccuping breaths. He reached up with one tiny hand and patted Griffin's clean-shaven cheek, earning a small smile that transformed the CEO's entire face. Emily stood frozen, the scattered papers forgotten at her feet. The sight of her son in Lucas Griffin's arms created an odd ache in her chest, a feeling she couldn't quite name. For a moment, the three of them existed in a strange bubble of silence, the rising sun casting long shadows across the office floor. Then Griffin's phone buzzed, shattering the spell. His expression shuddered, the warmth vanishing as quickly as it had appeared. He handed Noah back to Emily with careful precision, straightening his tie as he stepped away. "Ms. Roberts. Emily Roberts. Ms. Roberts." His voice was businesslike again, but not as cold as before. "My office, end of day. We need to discuss proper workplace protocols." Emily's heart sank. "Yes, sir." He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "And Ms. Roberts? Make sure he has something to eat. Babies don't cry like that unless they're hungry." With that, he was gone, leaving Emily to stare at the empty doorway, her mind spinning. Noah babbled happily in her arms, completely unaware that he might have just cost his mother her job, or that he'd somehow managed to crack, however briefly, the infamous ice surrounding Lucas Griffin's heart. The sun continued its climb over the Manhattan skyline, promising another long day in a world where nothing was ever simple, and where even the most carefully constructed walls could be brought down by the innocent tears of a child. Lucas Griffin couldn't focus. The quarterly reports on his screen blurred into meaningless numbers as his mind kept drifting back to the weight of that baby in his arms, the trust in those innocent eyes, the small hand against his cheek. He rubbed his jaw where he could still feel that tiny touch, then caught himself and dropped his hand, irritated by his own sentimentality. "Get it together," he muttered. But the morning's encounter had shaken something loose inside him, something he'd carefully buried years ago after that devastating diagnosis. The doctor's words still echoed in his mind. "The likelihood of you ever fathering children is virtually zero." His intercom buzzed, jolting him from the unwelcome memory. "Mr. Griffin, your mother is here." Perfect timing, just what he needed, to snap back to reality. Send her in. Margaret Griffin swept into the office like a perfectly coiffed hurricane, her Chanel suit as impeccable as her reputation. At 62, she remained one of New York's most formidable social figures, and she wielded the Griffin name like a weapon. "Darling," she air-kissed his cheek, her lipstick leaving no mark. "I heard the most peculiar rumor from Bethany Vandervelt at brunch. She said her husband's assistant spotted a baby in your office this morning. Obviously, I told her that was absurd." Lucas kept his expression neutral. "The cleaning staff had a childcare emergency. It's been handled." "The cleaning staff?" Margaret's perfectly shaped eyebrows arched. Since when do you concern yourself with such matters? That's what we have HR for. She settled into one of his visitor chairs, studying him with the shrewd gaze that had helped build Griffin Enterprises from the ground up. You seem distracted today. I have a board meeting in an hour. And I have the perfect distraction for afterward. Remember Alexandra Rothschild? She's divorced now and looking absolutely stunning. I've arranged for her to join us for dinner at Le Bernardin tonight. Cancel it. Lucas turned back to his computer. I have a late meeting. With the cleaning woman? Margaret's voice carried a dangerous edge. Don't think I haven't noticed. You watching the clock all morning. The Lucas I know would have fired her on the spot for such unprofessionalism. The Lucas you know is perfectly capable of handling his own staff decisions. He met her gaze steadily. Was there something else you needed, Mother? Margaret stood, smoothing her skirt. Just remember who you are, darling. The Griffin. Name means something in this city. We can't afford to show weakness, especially not now with the merger approaching. She paused at the door. I'll reschedule with Alexandra for tomorrow night. After she left, Lucas leaned back in his chair, loosening his tie. His mother wasn't wrong. The old Lucas would have fired Emily Roberts without a second thought. The company policy on bringing children to work was clear, so why had he hesitated? He pulled up her employee file, telling himself it was standard procedure. Emily Roberts, 24. Single mother. Excellent performance reviews. No disciplinary issues. The photo attached to her file didn't do justice to the quiet determination he'd seen in her eyes that morning, or the gentle way she'd calmed her son, even while clearly terrified for her job. Noah. The baby's name was Noah. The rest of Lucas's day passed in a blur of meetings and phone calls, but underneath his usual efficient exterior he felt unsettled. He found himself checking the time repeatedly as 5 o'clock approached, though he refused to acknowledge why. At precisely 5:15, his assistant announced Emily's arrival. She entered his office with her head high, though he could see the tension in her shoulders. She'd changed out of her cleaning uniform into simple jeans and a worn sweater. Noah was asleep against her chest, one tiny fist curled in her hair. Ms. Roberts. Lucas gestured to the chair across from his desk. Please sit. I understand. If you need to fire me, she said quietly, but without dropping her gaze. I just ask that you let me work my 2 weeks' notice. I need time to find another job. Her directness surprised him. Is that what you think this meeting is about? Isn't it? I broke company policy. I put you in an awkward position. I know the rules about children in the workplace. Rules, Lucas said slowly, exist for a reason, but so do exceptions. He studied her face, noting the shadows under her eyes, the worry lines around her mouth. Tell me about your situation, Ms. Roberts. Emily blinked, clearly thrown by the question. My situation? Your childcare arrangements. What happened this morning? My regular babysitter has the flu. I've been trying to find backup care, but it's not easy. Most places have waiting lists months long, and the ones that don't, she swallowed hard. I can't afford them on my salary. Lucas nodded, making a mental note. And Noah's father? Isn't in the picture. Her tone made it clear that was all she'd say on the matter. I see. Lucas stood, walking to the window. The city lights were coming on, creating a galaxy of artificial stars below. I'm not going to fire you, Ms. Roberts. He heard her sharp intake of breath. You're not? No, but we need to find a better solution than bringing Noah to work. He turned back to face her. There's a corporate daycare center in the building next door. It's usually reserved for executive staff, but I think we can make an arrangement. Emily's eyes widened. Mr. Griffin, I couldn't possibly afford. Consider it a company benefit. One that should have been extended to all employees long ago. He returned to his desk, pulling out a business card. Report there tomorrow morning. I'll make sure they're expecting you. She stared at the card in her hand as if it might disappear. I don't know what to say. Say you'll be on time tomorrow, without Noah in my office. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Yes, sir. She stood carefully, trying not to wake the sleeping baby. At the door, she paused. Mr. Griffin? Thank you. Not just for this, but for this morning. The way you were with him. Not many people would have. Good night, Ms. Roberts. His tone was firm, but not unkind. After she left, Lucas remained at his desk, staring at the place where she'd stood. His mother's words echoed in his mind. Remember who you are. The problem was, for the first time in years, he wasn't sure he knew anymore. His phone buzzed, with a text from Margaret. Dinner reservation confirmed for tomorrow. Alexandra can't wait to meet you. Lucas deleted the message without responding. He had more important things to think about, like why he'd just broken half a dozen company policies for a cleaning woman and her baby, and why, for the first time since that doctor's appointment 5 years ago, he felt something dangerously close to hope. The corporate daycare center gleamed with the same polished efficiency as the rest of the Griffin Enterprises empire. Emily stood in the doorway, clutching Noah's diaper bag as she watched him play with blocks alongside children wearing designer clothes that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Part of her still couldn't believe she was here. He's adjusting, beautifully, said Diane, the center's director, appearing beside her. Most children take weeks to settle in, but Noah's such a social butterfly. Emily smiled, watching her son offer a block to a little girl in a cashmere sweater. He's never met a stranger. Her voice caught as Noah looked up and beamed at her, his whole face lighting up. I should get to work. But before she could leave, a familiar figure appeared in the doorway, making her heart skip. Lucas Griffin stood there in a navy suit that probably cost more than her yearly salary, his presence causing an immediate stir among the staff. What caught Emily's attention, though, was the way his eyes went straight to Noah. Mr. Griffin? Diane rushed forward. What a pleasant surprise, we weren't expecting. Just a routine inspection, he said smoothly. But Emily noticed he was still watching Noah, who had abandoned his blocks and was now toddling toward them with determined steps. Bah, Noah proclaimed, reaching Lucas with a triumphant grin. Before anyone could react, Noah grabbed Lucas's pant leg with sticky fingers. Emily moved to intercept him, mortified, but Lucas was already crouching down to the baby's level. Good morning, young man, he said seriously, as if addressing a business associate. I trust you're finding the facilities satisfactory? Noah responded by offering him a slightly drool-covered block. To Emily's amazement, Lucas accepted it with grave courtesy. Thank you. I'll add this to our quarterly assets. His lips twitched as Noah giggled. Then he seemed to remember where he was and who was watching. He straightened, adjusting his tie. Ms. Roberts, a word? Emily followed him into the hallway, her pulse racing. I'm sorry about your suit. Don't be. I have others. He glanced back through the doorway where Noah had returned to his blocks. He seems happy here. He is, Mr. Griffin. I can't thank you enough for... Lucas. What? My name, it's Lucas. He met her eyes and something electric passed between them. Since we keep running into each other, we might as well use first names. Emily felt her cheeks warm. Lucas, she said softly, testing the way it felt on her tongue. His eyes darkened almost imperceptibly. Have dinner with me. The words hung in the air between them, shocking them both. Emily stared at him, certain she'd misheard. What? Lucas looked as surprised as she felt, but he didn't back down. Dinner. Tonight. There are some things I'd like to discuss regarding your position here. My position as a cleaning... woman? Emily's voice carried a hint of challenge. Your position as someone I can't seem to stop thinking about. The raw honesty in his voice made her breath catch. Then his professional mask slipped back into place. 7 o'clock. I'll send a car. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. His expression hardened as he checked the message. I have to go. We'll talk more tonight. Emily watched him stride away, her heart pounding. What had just happened? More importantly, what was she going to do about it? The answer came an hour later as she was cleaning the conference room on the 35th floor. Her phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. Car will pick you up at 6:30. Address? She was still staring at it when another message appeared. This is Lucas, by the way. Got your number from HR. Of course he did, because he was Lucas Griffin and the normal rules of social interaction probably didn't apply to him. She should say no. She should absolutely, definitely say no. She sent him her address. The rest of the day passed in a blur of nervous energy. Emily left work early for the first time ever, rushing to pick up Noah and then home to her tiny apartment in Queens. She had exactly 45 minutes to get herself and Noah ready. What am I doing? She asked her reflection as she applied mascara with shaking hands. She'd managed to find a simple black dress in the back of her closet, the one she'd worn to her college graduation 2 years ago. It would have to do. The car that arrived wasn't just any car. It was a sleek black town car with a uniformed driver who insisted on carrying Noah's diaper bag. Mr. Griffin arranged for us to drop off your son with his evening sitter, the driver explained, helping Emily secure Noah's car seat. His what? Mrs. Chen. She's been caring for Griffin family children for 30 years. Emily's head spun. Lucas had arranged childcare. When had he done that? More importantly, why did that make her heart do strange flips in her chest? Mrs. Chen turned out to be a grandmother with kind eyes and a spotless apartment filled with toys. She took one look at Noah and declared him perfect, then practically shooed Emily out the door. Go, have good time. Baby safe with me. The restaurant was exactly as intimidating as Emily had feared. Le Cirque's elegant interior made her feel painfully out of place, but Lucas was waiting in the lobby, and the smile he gave her when she walked in made her forget everything else. You look beautiful, he said quietly, his hand touching the small of her back as he guided her to their table. They were halfway through their appetizers when Emily finally gathered the courage to ask, "Why am I here, Lucas?" He set down his wine glass, studying her face. "Because I haven't been able to focus on work all week. Because every time I close my eyes, I see you with Noah in my office, and it's driving me crazy. Because you're nothing like the women my mother throws at me, and that's exactly what I want. I'm also nothing like the women you usually date. I'm sure." Emily met his gaze steadily. "I'm a single mother who cleans your office for a living. I shop at Target, not Saks. You're real," he interrupted. "Do you know how rare that is in my world?" Before Emily could respond, a commotion at the restaurant's entrance drew their attention. Margaret Griffin stood there, elegant in crimson, with a stunning blonde on her arm. "Lucas, darling," Margaret's voice carried across the restaurant. "What a delightful coincidence. Alexandra and I were just discussing you." Emily's heart sank as the blonde, presumably Alexandra, gave Lucas a dazzling smile. Here was a woman who belonged in his world, who wouldn't cause whispers and raised eyebrows. But Lucas wasn't looking at Alexandra. His eyes were fixed on Emily, and the heat in them made her shiver. "Mother," he said without taking his eyes off Emily, "this isn't a good time." "Don't be silly." Margaret was already steering Alexandra toward their table. "We'll join you. After all, we're practically family." Emily watched Lucas's jaw clench. This was it. The moment he'd remember who he was and who she wasn't. She waited for him to pull away, to slip behind his CEO mask. Instead, he reached across the table and took her hand. "Actually, Mother," he said clearly, "I'm on a date, a private one." His thumb brushed across Emily's knuckles, sending sparks up her arm. "And we were just leaving." The look on Margaret's face could have frozen hell. "Lucas Richard Griffin." "Good night, Mother." Lucas stood, helping Emily to her feet. "Alexandra, I apologize, but I'm sure you understand." He led Emily out of the restaurant, his hand still firmly holding hers. Outside in the cool night air, Emily finally found her voice. "Your mother hates me. My mother hates everything that threatens her perfect plan for my life." He turned to face her, and his expression made her heart race. "Emily, this is crazy," she whispered. "This can't work. There are 1,000 reasons why." He kissed her. The world stopped. Everything. Margaret's cold stare, the class divide between them, the complications ahead, faded away. There was only Lucas's lips on hers, his hands cradling her face like she was something precious. When they finally broke apart, Emily knew with terrifying certainty that her life would never be the same. What she didn't know was that someone was watching from the restaurant window, phone in hand, already composing an email that would set in motion events that would test everything they were just beginning to feel. The email hit every major gossip site by morning. Griffin Enterprises CEO's secret romance with cleaning staff. The photos weren't particularly scandalous, just Lucas and Emily kissing outside Le Cirque, but the headlines more than made up for it with wild speculation. Lucas slammed his laptop shut, his office feeling suddenly too small. The board members had been calling all morning. His PR team was in crisis mode. And his mother. "Have you completely lost your mind?" Margaret burst into his office, brandishing her tablet. "Do you have any idea what this is doing to our stock price, to our reputation?" "Good morning to you too, Mother." Lucas kept his voice steady, though his hands wanted to shake, not with fear, but with rage. Someone had been watching them. Someone had violated Emily's privacy, and he had a pretty good idea who was behind it. "Don't take that tone with me." Margaret's eyes flashed. "I raised you better than this." "A cleaning woman, Lucas? What's next? Will you be adopting her little bastard too?" Lucas stood so quickly, his chair slammed into the wall. "Don't you ever speak about Noah that way again." Something in his voice made Margaret step back. In 35 years, she had never heard that edge of fury in her son's tone. She studied him with narrowed eyes, and her expression shifted from anger to something worse. Calculation. "Oh, darling," she said softly. "Is that what this is about? Your condition?" She laid a manicured hand on his arm. "I know how much you've always wanted children, but there are other ways, proper ways. We could arrange a surrogate, find you a suitable wife. Get out." Lucas, get out. After she left, Lucas stood at his window, pressing his forehead against the cool glass. His phone buzzed, another message from his PR team about damage control. He ignored it, opening his messages with Emily instead. "Are you okay?" he typed, then deleted it. Of course she wasn't okay. Her life was being turned upside down because of him. He tried again. "Can we talk?" Her response came quickly. "Daycare. 10 minutes." The corporate daycare was mercifully empty of other parents when he arrived. Emily stood by the observation window, watching Noah play inside. She wore her cleaning uniform, her hair pulled back, severely, but she'd never looked more beautiful to him. "I'm so sorry," he said quietly, moving to stand beside her. "Don't be." Her voice was steady, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. "I knew what I was getting into. Well, maybe, not this exactly," but she turned to face him. "We can't do this, Lucas." "Emily. Look at them." She gestured through the window where Noah was playing with the other children. "He's happy here. He's safe. I can't risk his stability because we had one moment of whatever that was." It wasn't just a moment. Lucas stepped closer, close enough to catch the faint scent of her shampoo. "You know it wasn't." "Then what was it?" Her eyes challenged him. "What exactly are you offering here, Lucas? Secret dinners? Stolen kisses? How long until your mother finds a way to get rid of me? How long until you realize this is too complicated?" Instead of answering, he reached past her and opened the daycare door. "Come with me." Inside, Noah's face lit up when he saw them. He abandoned his toys and toddled over, arms raised in the universal baby signal for up. To Emily's surprise, he reached for Lucas. Lucas scooped him up without hesitation, as natural as if he'd been doing it his whole life. "Hey, buddy. Building something?" "Bah." Noah patted Lucas's face with sticky hands, then pointed imperiously at the block corner. "Oh, I see. Very impressive architecture. Lucas carried him over to the block, sitting cross-legged on the floor without any regard for his $1,000 suit. Should we add a tower? Emily watched them play, her heart doing strange things in her chest. Lucas Griffin, feared CEO, and corporate shark, was sitting on a daycare floor building block towers with her son. Every time Noah knocked them down, Lucas laughed, a real laugh, deep and genuine. Ms. Roberts? Diane appeared at her elbow. There's a call for you at the front desk. Something about a reporter? Emily's stomach dropped. I'll be right there. But before she could leave, Lucas was on his feet. Noah balanced expertly on his hip. What reporter? It's fine, I can handle. Emily. His free hand caught hers. Let me help, please. She looked at their joined hands, then at Noah, who was contentedly playing with Lucas's tie. Why are you doing this? Any of this? Because when I'm with you and Noah, I feel. He paused, searching for words. Real, complete. Like maybe all the things I thought I could never have aren't as impossible as I believed. What things? Pain flickered across his face. I should tell you something. About why my mother is so obsessed with me finding the right wife, having the perfect family. Why this, he gestured between them, scares her so much. But before he could continue, his phone buzzed with an urgent message. Emily caught a glimpse of the screen. Emergency board meeting, vote of no confidence. Go, she said softly. Handle your company. We'll figure out the rest later. He hesitated, then pressed a kiss to Noah's head before handing him back to Emily. The gesture was so natural, so paternal, that it brought tears to her eyes. This isn't over, he promised. Whatever they throw at us, whatever my mother does, I'm not walking away. Not from you, and not from him. After he left, Emily held Noah close, breathing in his baby scent. What are we doing, sweet boy? She whispered. Noah just babbled happily, reaching for the blocks again. But over his head, through the daycare window, Emily saw Margaret Griffin watching them, her expression cold and calculating. The older woman raised her phone to her ear, speaking words Emily couldn't hear. Emily pulled Noah closer, a chill running down her spine. She had a feeling things were about to get much, much worse. She was right. By that afternoon, she received notice that her position was being eliminated due to corporate restructuring. The daycare spot, it seemed, was contingent on her employment. As she packed Noah's things, fighting back tears, her phone buzzed, with a text from Lucas. Whatever they told you, don't believe it. Trust me. She stared at the message for a long time before responding. I want to, but I have to protect Noah first. The typing bubbles appeared and disappeared several times before his reply came through. I know. That's one of the reasons I'm falling in love with you. Emily sank onto a tiny daycare chair, her hands shaking. Outside, storm clouds gathered over Manhattan, promising rain. Inside, she felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crumble, even as every rational part of her screamed that this could only end in heartbreak. Because the truth was, she was falling in love with him too, and that terrified her more than any storm ahead. The boardroom of Griffin Enterprises hummed with tension. Lucas stood at the window, watching rain lash against the glass while 12 board members debated his future. His mother sat at the far end of the table, her expression unreadable. This scandal is just the beginning, Charles Whitman, the eldest board member, was saying. Our conservative investors are already expressing concerns. The Griffin name has always stood for family values. Lucas turned from the window, his voice sharp. Is that what we're calling it now? Lucas, Margaret warned, but he was done playing her game. Let's be clear about what's really happening here. He walked slowly around the table, meeting each board member's eyes. This vote of no confidence isn't about stock prices or investor concerns. It's about control. My mother's control, to be specific. Margaret's perfectly manicured nails dug into the leather armrest. That's enough. No, it isn't. Lucas planted his hands on the table, leaning forward. For 5 years, I've doubled this company's profits. I've expanded into new markets, increased our charitable giving, and modernized our corporate culture. The only thing I haven't done is marry the woman my mother chose and produce an heir on schedule. Your personal life, Charles began, is exactly what this is about. Lucas straightened, adjusting his cuffs. So let's vote. But first, you should know that if you remove me as CEO, the first thing I'll do is sell my controlling shares to our competitors. I'd rather burn this company to the ground than watch it become another tool for manipulation. The silence that followed was deafening. Margaret's face had gone white. You wouldn't dare. Try me. He met her gaze steadily. I'm not that scared little boy anymore, Mother. The one who believed he was broken because he couldn't give you the grandchildren you wanted. Understanding dawned on several board members' faces. The company's succession had always been Margaret's obsession, but few knew the real reason why. The vote, when it came, was 8-4 in Lucas's favor. He accepted the result with a curt nod, then strode from the room without looking back. His mother's voice followed him. This isn't over. No, he thought, it wasn't. But for the first time in his life, he was ready for the fight. Across town, Emily sat in her tiny apartment surrounded by job applications. Noah napped in his crib, clutching the stuffed elephant that had become his favorite toy. Her phone lay silent on the coffee table, Lucas's last message still unanswered. Let me fix this. But how could he? Her reputation was in tatters. No corporate office would hire her now. The gossip sites had painted her as a gold digger, a single mother trying to trap one of New York's most eligible bachelors. Some had even questioned Noah's paternity, suggesting she'd planned this from the beginning. A knock at the door startled her. Through the peephole, she saw an elegant woman in her 60s, but not Margaret Griffin. This woman's face was kinder, her eyes warm despite her obvious wealth. Mrs. Chen? Emily opened the door in surprise. The woman who had watched Noah the night of her date with Lucas smiled gently. May I come in? I bring soup? Good for rainy days. Emily found herself ushering the older woman into her small kitchen. Mrs. Chen set down a container of what smelled like heaven, then turned to Emily with surprising directness. You love him. It wasn't a question. Emily sank into a chair, suddenly exhausted. It's not that simple. Love never is. Mrs. Chen sat across from her. But sometimes simple is not what we need. She reached into her designer handbag and pulled out a worn photograph. This was Lucas, age 5. Emily took the photo with trembling hands. A small boy with serious eyes stared back at her, clutching a teddy bear. You knew him then? I raised him. Margaret was too busy with company, with society. Lucas was lonely child, smart but so hungry for love. Mrs. Chen's eyes grew distant. When doctor tell him about fertility problem, he shut down. Decide he never have family, never risk pain of trying. Emily's heart clenched. He can't have children? Chances very small. This why Margaret pushed so hard for proper wife, for medical treatments, for control. But Lucas... Mrs. Chen smiled sadly. Lucas give up. Until now. What do you mean? I watch him with Noah. See how natural, how happy. He look at you both like miracle he never dare hope for. She reached across the table, squeezing Emily's hand. Don't let fear steal miracle. Before Emily could respond, Noah's cry came through the baby monitor. Mrs. Chen stood. Go. Baby needs mama. Just remember, sometimes family not about blood. Sometimes family about choice. After Mrs. Chen left, Emily lifted Noah from his crib, holding him close as he blinked sleepily at her. What do you think, sweet boy? Should we trust in miracles? Her phone buzzed. Another message from Lucas. I won the board vote, but that's not what matters. What matters is I can't stop thinking about you and Noah. About the way he laughs when I build block towers. About how right it feels when you're both in my arms. I know you're scared, I am too, but please give us a chance. Emily looked at her sleeping son, then at the photo Mrs. Chen had left behind. A lonely little boy who grew up believing he could never have what he wanted. Most? Her fingers hovered over the phone. A different knock at the door made her pause. This one was sharp, authoritative. Through the peephole, she saw two men in suits. "Ms. Roberts? We're from Child Protective Services. We've received some concerning reports about your living situation and employment status. We need to discuss your fitness as a parent." Emily's blood ran cold. She clutched Noah tighter, her mind racing. There was only one person who could have orchestrated this. Her phone buzzed again. "Lucas." "Emily? Please answer." "Something's wrong. I can feel it." She looked at her son at the door at her phone. Whatever she did next would change everything. The knock came again, more insistent this time. Emily made her decision. She picked up her phone. Lucas Griffin had never driven so fast in his life. Rain pounded his Aston Martin as he weaved. Through Manhattan traffic, Emily's text burning in his mind. "CPS at my door. Your mother's work, I'm sure. Help." He'd made one call, to the best family law attorney in New York, before breaking every speed limit between his office and Queens. The scene he found made his blood boil. Two CPS workers in the hallway, Emily white-faced in her doorway, Noah crying in her arms. "Mr. Griffin," one of the workers began, clearly surprised. This is harassment," Lucas cut in, moving to stand beside Emily. His hand found the small of her back, steady and warm. "And my attorney will be very interested in investigating who filed these supposedly anonymous complaints. We're required to investigate all reports." Of what?" Emily's voice shook, but she stood straighter. "Of a mother who works hard to support her child, who just lost her job due to corporate retaliation. Is that what you're investigating?" The older CPS worker, a woman with kind eyes, studied them thoughtfully. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion inside." The next hour was a blur of questions and documentation. Emily produced Noah's medical records, daycare records, bank statements, everything showing she was a devoted, capable mother. Lucas sat beside her on the worn couch, his presence both a comfort and a statement. She wasn't alone anymore. "I think we have enough information," the female worker finally said, closing her notebook. "Ms. Roberts, while we're required to keep your case open for standard review, I see no immediate concerns about Noah's welfare." After they left, Emily sagged against Lucas, trembling. Noah had finally fallen asleep in his playpen, exhausted from the ordeal. "I'm going to kill her," Lucas said quietly, his arm tightening around Emily. "No, you're not." Emily pulled back to look at him. "You're going to tell me why she's really doing this. Mrs. Chen told me about your diagnosis, but this level of interference, there's more, isn't there?" Lucas was silent for a long moment, watching Noah sleep. Finally, he spoke. "My father had an affair when I was young. The woman got pregnant." His laugh was bitter. The great Richard Griffin, producing an heir with his mistress while his wife remained childless. My mother never forgave him. When he died, she devoted herself to two things: the company and ensuring the Griffin legacy would be perfect. No scandals, no complications. And then you found out you couldn't have children. The ultimate betrayal in her eyes, her only son unable to continue the precious Griffin bloodline. He ran a hand through his hair. I accepted it, buried myself in work. Let her parade suitable women past me, knowing I'd never actually... He trailed off as Noah stirred, whimpering in his sleep. Without hesitation, Lucas went to the playpen and lifted him, settling the baby against his chest with practiced ease. Noah immediately quieted, his tiny hand curling into Lucas's shirt. "Then I met you," Lucas continued softly, "and this little guy. And suddenly all those things I'd convinced myself I couldn't have, shouldn't want." He looked at Emily, his eyes vulnerable. "You make me want everything, Emily. A family. A life beyond boardrooms and business deals. Even if I can never give you more children." "Stop." Emily moved to them, laying her hand over his heart where Noah slept. "Lucas, I don't care about that. Noah's father walked away because he wasn't ready to be a dad. Biology didn't make him a father, and biology isn't what makes you." She swallowed hard. What makes you so amazing with Noah? Tell me about him, Lucas said quietly. Noah's father. Emily sank onto the couch, Lucas following with Noah still cradled against him. Not much to tell. College boyfriend. When I told him I was pregnant, he said he had law school to think about. His future. As if I didn't have dreams too. What? Dreams? I was studying literature, wanted to teach. She smiled sadly. Life had other plans. It's not too late. Lucas shifted Noah to one arm, taking her hand with his free one. Emily, let me help. Not just with this CPS nonsense, with everything. Go back to school, chase your dreams, let me be there for both of you. Lucas. Marry me. The words hung in the air between them. Emily stared at him, heart pounding. What? Marry me, he repeated, more certain now. Not because of my mother or CPS or any of it. Marry me because I love you. Because I love Noah. Because when I'm with you both, I finally feel like the man I was meant to be. You can't just... I can. I am. His eyes were intense. I know, it's fast. I know there are a million reasons why we should wait, be practical. But I've spent my whole life being practical, Emily. Playing it safe, following the rules. And then you crashed into my office with this beautiful boy, and nothing's been the same since. As if on cue, Noah stirred, blinking up at them. His sleepy smile was pure sunshine. Bah, he said clearly, patting Lucas's cheek. Then he reached for Emily. Mama. Tears spilled down Emily's cheeks. Lucas, your mother will never stop fighting this. The board, the press, the society pages, they'll tear us apart. Let them try. His voice was steel. I meant what I said in that boardroom. I'll burn it all down before I let anyone take you and Noah away from me. Emily looked at the man before her. Powerful CEO, ruthless businessman, so tenderly, holding her son. She thought of the lonely little boy in Mrs. Chen's photo, who grew up believing he could never have a family of his own. Yes, she whispered. Lucas went still. Yes? Yes, I'll marry you. She laughed through her tears. God help me, but I love you, Lucas Griffin, and so does your son. The kiss they shared was soft, sweet, full of promise, broken only by Noah's impatient babbling. They both laughed, creating a group hug that felt like home. Neither of them saw the car parked across the street, or Margaret Griffin's perfectly manicured hand taking photos through the rain-streaked window. She lifted her phone to her. Here. It's worse than we thought, she said coldly. Move forward with the plan. Tomorrow we end this fairy tale once and for all. Inside the apartment, oblivious to the gathering storm, Lucas held his new family close. For the first time in his life, he felt complete, whole. Tomorrow would bring its own battles. But tonight, in this moment, everything was perfect. Noah fell asleep again, this time with one hand gripping Lucas's tie and the other tangled in Emily's hair, connecting them all. Outside, the rain finally stopped and the first stars appeared over Queens. Bright points of hope in the darkness, promising that sometimes, just sometimes, love really could conquer all, even if it had to fight like hell to do it. The morning news hit like a bomb. Griffin Ayre's secret child scandal. Splashed across every major newspaper and website were photos, not of Emily and Noah, but of a beautiful woman holding a toddler with Lucas's eyes. DNA test confirms Griffin CEO father's child with former model. Emily stared at her phone, her whole body numb. The woman, Victoria Lancaster, was quoted extensively about her passionate affair with Lucas 3 years ago, and how she'd kept their child secret until now for the sake of his reputation. Noah babbled in his high chair, happily smashing Cheerios. Emily watched him, her heart breaking. Everything Lucas had said about being unable to father children, had it all been lies? Her phone rang, Lucas's number. She let it go to weigh. Voicemail. It rang again immediately. Emily, please. His text read. This isn't what it looks like, let me explain. Another text. I'm coming over. Don't watch the news. Don't read anything. Just wait for me. But Emily couldn't stop reading. Victoria Lancaster was everything she wasn't. Wealthy, sophisticated, from the right social circles. And according to every report, she had DNA evidence proving her 3-year-old son was Lucas's child. A knock at the door made her jump. But it wasn't Lucas. It was Margaret Griffin. "May I come in?" The older woman didn't wait for an answer, sweeping into the apartment with regal grace. Her eyes fell on Noah, and something flickered across her face. "I assume you've seen the news. Get out. Emily, dear, be reasonable." Margaret settled onto the couch as if it were a throne. "You seem like an intelligent young woman. Surely you understand this changes everything." "Does it?" Emily lifted Noah from his high chair, holding him close. "Or is this just another one of your schemes? Do you think I orchestrated a DNA test?" Margaret's laugh was cold. "The results are quite real, I assure you. Victoria has been very thorough in her documentation. Lucas said he couldn't have children? Yes, that's what he believed. What we all believed after that initial diagnosis." Margaret examined her perfect manicures. "Apparently, medical science isn't always exact. The proof is currently playing with his expensive toys in his Park Avenue nursery." Emily's legs felt weak. She sank into a chair, Noah squirming in her arms to be put down. "Why are you here?" "To offer you a way out, before this gets messier than it already is." Margaret opened her designer handbag, removing an envelope. $1 million. Sign an NDA, walk away, let Lucas focus on his real family. Get out. The voice from the doorway was deadly quiet. Lucas stood there, his normally immaculate appearance showing signs of strain. His tie was loose, his hair disheveled as if he'd been running his hands through it repeatedly. "Lucas." Margaret didn't move. "I'm simply trying to handle this situation. By offering to buy off my fiancé? By trying to destroy my family?" "Victoria is your family," Margaret countered. "That child is your blood, your heir. Everything we've wanted." "No." Lucas's voice cracked like a whip. "Everything you've wanted, your perfect plan, your precious legacy." He crossed to Emily, taking her free hand. "This is my family. Emily, Noah, the people I choose. The DNA test is fake." Lucas's grip on Emily's hand tightened. "I had my doctor run new tests this morning. It's physically impossible for me to father children. Victoria Lancaster is a paid actress, and that child," he laughed bitterly. "Well done, mother, using my own cousin's kid as a prop. Did you really think I wouldn't recognize Timothy's son?" Color drained from Margaret's face. "You can't prove—" "Actually, I can." Lucas pulled out his phone, playing a recording. Victoria Lancaster's voice filled the room. "Mrs. Griffin assured me it would just be a few photos. Plant some doubt. Create a scandal. The money was too good to pass up." Margaret stood, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. "You've never understood what I've tried to do for you. For this family. You're right. I don't understand. I don't understand how my own mother could be so cruel, so obsessed with control that she'd try to destroy my happiness." Lucas moved to the playpen where Noah was attempting to stack blocks. He lifted the baby with gentle hands. "This is my son, mother. Not by blood, but by choice. By love. The same way this incredible woman is going to be my wife. The board won't stand for. The board already knows about everything. The fake DNA test, the harassment, the CPS calls. Your little scheme with Victoria backfired spectacularly." Lucas's smile was sharp. "I had a very interesting emergency board meeting this morning. They voted to remove you from the company, effective immediately." Margaret swayed on her feet. "You wouldn't dare. Watch me." Lucas shifted Noah to one arm, wrapping the other around Emily. "You have 1 hour to clear out your office before security arrives. After that, if you ever try to contact us again, If you ever try to hurt my family again, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what the great Margaret Griffin did to her own son." After she left, Emily finally found her voice. "Lucas, I'm so sorry. I should have trusted." He silenced her with a kiss, fierce and tender at once. Noah, squished between them, giggled and patted both their faces. "No apologies," Lucas murmured against her lips. "Not for doubting, not for being scared. Just promise me something. Anything. Promise me that no matter what happens, no matter what people say or what obstacles we face, you'll remember this moment. Remember that I choose you. Both of you. Always." Emily looked at this man who had upended his entire world for her and Noah, who had faced down his own mother and an empire of expectations to stand by them. "I promise." Noah chose that moment to grab Lucas's tie and Emily's necklace, effectively tangling them together. They both laughed, the tension of the morning breaking. "Bah, Mama," Noah declared proudly, clearly pleased with his handiwork. "That's right, buddy." Lucas pressed a kiss to his head. "We're stuck together now. All of us." Later, as they watched Noah nap, his tiny hands still clutching the tie he'd refused to let go of, Emily asked the question that had been nagging at her. What happens now? With the company? With everything? Lucas pulled her closer, his chin resting on her head. "Now we build something new, something better. A company that values family, real family, in all its forms. A legacy worth leaving to our son." "Our son," Emily repeated softly, testing the words. "Our son," Lucas confirmed. "And maybe someday, if you want, we can adopt more kids. Build the big, messy, beautiful family neither of us thought we'd have." Emily turned in his arms, seeing the future in his eyes, a future full of love, hope, and possibility. "I'd like that." Outside, New York City hummed with life and endless possibility. Inside, a family born of choice rather than blood held each other close, proving that sometimes the most powerful legacy isn't the one we're born into, but the one we build for ourselves. What they didn't know was that Margaret Griffin wasn't done fighting. Not by a long shot. In her Park Avenue penthouse, she was already making calls, pulling strings, preparing for one final battle. Because some wounds run too deep to heal, and some mothers never learn to let go. 2 weeks after Margaret's removal from Griffin Enterprises, Emily stood in Lucas's penthouse watching Noah toddle around their newly baby-proofed living room. The wall of windows offered a stunning view of Central Park, painted in autumn colors. It still felt surreal, this beautiful space, this new life, this chance at happiness. "What do you think, buddy?" Lucas emerged from his home office, scooping up Noah mid-toddle. "Should we add a swing set to the terrace? Maybe a sandbox?" "You're not serious." Emily laughed, but Lucas's eyes sparkled with possibility. "Why not? This is his home too now." He pressed a kiss to Noah's curls. "Speaking of which, when are you going to let me move the rest of your things from Queens?" Emily hesitated. Despite their engagement, despite practically living at the penthouse already, some part of her still clung to her tiny apartment like a life raft. "Lucas." I know, too fast." He set Noah down near his toys. "But consider this. The sooner you move in officially, the sooner we can convert that spare room into your study. For when you start your teaching degree next semester." Her heart skipped. Lucas had been true to his word about supporting her dreams, already arranging for her admission to NYU's education program. "You're not playing fair." "Never claimed I would." He pulled her close, nuzzling her neck. "Come on, Professor Roberts. Say yes." "Dada." They both froze. Noah stood gripping the coffee table, beaming at Lucas with pure adoration. "Dada," he repeated proudly. Emily's hands flew to her mouth. Lucas looked shell-shocked, his eyes suspiciously bright. "Noah," he whispered, kneeling down. "What did you say, buddy?" "Dada!" Noah toddled to him, arms raised. "Up, dada!" Lucas swept him up, holding him close. When he looked at Emily, there were tears in his eyes. Is this okay?" I don't want to overstep. She silenced him with a kiss, tasting the salt of happy tears. His or hers, she wasn't sure. It's perfect. You're his father in every way that matters. The moment was shattered by Lucas's phone buzzing urgently. His expression darkened as he read the message. What is it? The Tokyo merger, someone's trying to tank it. His jaw clenched. Mother's been busy. The past 2 weeks had seen a series of calculated attacks on Griffin Enterprises. Leaked documents, spooked investors, whisper campaigns about Lucas's stability. Margaret's fingerprints were everywhere, but nothing could be proven. Go, Emily said softly. Handle it. We'll be here when you get back. Lucas kissed her, then Noah. I'll make this quick. Then we'll celebrate properly. Our sons first. Dada deserves champagne and chocolate milk, he added, tickling Noah's belly. After he left, Emily tried to focus on unpacking boxes, but anxiety gnawed at her. Something felt off. The penthouse was too quiet, even with Noah's happy babbling as he played with his blocks. Her phone rang, an unknown number. Hello? You've gotten sloppy, dear. Margaret's voice was silk over steel. Really, you should pay more attention to who has access to the building. Emily's blood ran cold. She scooped up Noah, heading for the door, but it was already opening. Margaret stood there, elegant as ever, with 2 large men in suits behind her. What do you want? To protect my son, since he won't protect himself. Margaret stepped inside, the men flanking her. Don't worry, this won't take long. Whatever you're planning is already done. Margaret smiled thinly. The board is receiving evidence as we speak about your colorful past. The string of wealthy men you've attempted to trap, the fraudulent claims, the previous attempts to extort money with false paternity claims. That's insane. None of that is true. Truth is relative, dear. What matters is documentation, which my very expensive investigators have created quite convincingly. Margaret's eyes fell on Noah. The real question is, how will it affect Noah's custody situation when all this comes to light? Emily clutched Noah tighter. You wouldn't dare. Wouldn't I? Unlike my son, I understand sacrifice, the things we do to protect our legacy. Margaret nodded to one of the men, who moved toward Emily. Now, let's discuss terms. You can leave, now quietly, with enough money to start fresh somewhere far away. Or what? Lucas's voice cut through the room like ice. He stood in the doorway, practically vibrating with rage. Behind him were Mrs. Chen and a distinguished-looking man Emily didn't recognize. Perfect timing. The man stepped forward, addressing Margaret. Mrs. Griffin, I'm Detective James Morrison, NYPD Financial Crimes Unit. We've been building a case against you for corporate fraud, witness tampering, and now breaking and entering. Margaret's composure cracked. You have no proof. Actually, Mrs. Chen spoke up, her kind face hard. We have everything. All meetings recorded. All bribes documented. I protect Lucas since he was boy. Did you really think I wouldn't keep watching? Your own son, Margaret spat. You'd betray me for his happiness? Yes. Mrs. Chen moved to Emily and Noah, her presence somehow both gentle and fierce. For real family, not empty legacy. The next few minutes were a blur of police activity. Margaret was led away. In handcuffs, her perfect composure finally shattered. Her hired men turned out to be unregistered private investigators, adding more charges to her growing list. After it was over, Emily sat on the couch, Noah dozing in her arms. Lucas hadn't stopped touching them since the police left, as if afraid they'd disappear. How did you know? She finally asked. Mrs. Chen. Lucas smiled at the older woman who was quietly making tea in the kitchen. She's been keeping tabs on Mother since I took over the company. When she saw those men enter the building, she called me immediately. I not let anyone hurt my boys, Mrs. Chen called from the kitchen, or their mama. Emily felt tears spill over. Thank you, both of you. No. Lucas knelt before her, taking her free hand. Thank you for giving me the strength to finally end this, for showing me what real family means. He touched Noah's cheek softly. For making me a father. Dada, Noah mumbled in his sleep, making them all laugh quietly. Move in, Lucas said suddenly. Not because it's practical or safer or any of that. Move in because this is where you belong. Both of you, where we belong. Emily looked around the penthouse, at Mrs. Chen humming in the kitchen, at Noah's toys scattered across the floor, at the man she loved looking at her with his heart in his eyes. Okay, she whispered. Okay? Yes. She smiled through her tears. Let's come home. Later that night, after Noah was tucked into his crib, already decorated with stars and moons because Lucas couldn't help himself, they stood on the terrace, watching the city lights twinkle. What happens now? Emily asked, leaning back against Lucas's chest. Now? He wrapped his arms around her. Now we live our happily ever after. You become a teacher. I build a better company. We raise our son, maybe add a few more kids to the chaos. We prove that family isn't about blood or legacy or expectations. It's about love. Choice. The future we build together. I like the sound of that. Inside, Noah made a small sound in his sleep. They both turned to watch him on the baby monitor, their hearts full. What they didn't see was the envelope being delivered to every major news outlet in the city. Margaret's final revenge set in motion before her arrest. Inside was a story that would test their newfound happiness in ways they couldn't imagine. But that was tomorrow's battle. Tonight, they were simply a family, holding each other close as the city glowed around them. Proof that sometimes the best things in life are the ones we never saw coming. The headlines exploded across New York the next morning. Griffin Dynasty, the hidden heir. But this time the story wasn't about Victoria Lancaster or fake DNA tests. This was worse, much worse. According to sealed court documents, Griffin has a biological daughter from a previous relationship. Sources confirm Griffin Enterprises has been paying the mother, Catherine Winters, substantial sums for years to maintain silence. Emily stared at her phone, her hand shaking. The article included photos. A beautiful little girl with Lucas's eyes, around 7 years old. The timeline was perfect. The documentation seemed irrefutable. And Lucas hadn't come home last night. After the news broke, he'd been called into an emergency meeting. His texts had grown increasingly sparse. Handling it. Then, don't believe everything you read. Finally, hours ago. I'm so sorry. I'll explain everything. Noah fussed in his high chair, picking up on her tension. Dada? I don't know, sweet boy. Emily wiped away tears she hadn't realized were falling. I don't know where Dada is. Her phone buzzed. Mrs. Chen. Come to Old Griffin House. Bring Noah. Time you know whole truth. The Griffin family mansion stood in stately elegance. On the Upper East Side, a relic of old money and older secrets. Mrs. Chen met them at the door, her usual warm smile replaced by determination. He inside, she said, taking Noah. In library. Go, listen with heart, not fear. Emily found Lucas in a vast room lined with books. He stood at a window, looking older than she'd ever seen him. A framed photo sat on the desk beside him. A young girl with his eyes. Her name is Charlotte, he said without turning. She's 7 years old, and she's not my daughter, she's my sister. Emily sank into a leather chair, her legs weak. What? Remember I told you about my father's affair? Lucas finally faced her, his eyes red-rimmed. What I didn't know, what none of us knew until recently, was that he had another family. Catherine Winters wasn't a mistress, she was his second wife. Bigamy? My father lived a double life for years. When Catherine got pregnant, he finally told my mother. She didn't handle it well. He picked up the photo, his fingers tracing the glass. She threatened to expose him, ruin him. He had a heart attack that night. His last act was making me promise to protect Charlotte, to make sure she and Catherine were taken care of. Does Margaret know? She knows everything. She's the one who orchestrated the payments, the cover-up. Not to protect Charlotte, but to bury what she saw as our family's greatest shame. His laugh was bitter. All these years she's used it to control me. Think of the scandal, Lucas. Think of the company. Emily moved to him, taking his hand. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed, not of Charlotte, never of her, but of my part in keeping her hidden, of letting my mother's obsession with appearances deny that little girl a brother. He gripped Emily's hand tighter. When you and Noah came into my life, when I saw what real family meant, I couldn't bear it anymore. I started making arrangements to meet Charlotte, to acknowledge her publicly, and Margaret found out. She couldn't stop me from taking the company, from choosing you and Noah. So she did the one thing she knew would hurt the most, exposed Charlotte before I could do it right, tried to make it look like I was the one hiding her out of shame. A small sound made them turn. Mrs. Chen stood in the doorway with Noah, and behind her, Charlie? Lucas's voice cracked. The little girl from the photos stood there, clutching her mother's hand. Catherine Winters was an elegant woman with kind eyes and her daughter's gentle smile. Hi, big brother, Charlotte said softly. What happened next would stay with Emily forever. Lucas crossed the room in 3 strides, dropping to his knees before his sister. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I should have been there. Should have been brave enough to. Charlotte threw her arms around his neck. Mom told me everything, about Grandma Margaret, about why we had to be a secret. It's okay. You're here now. Noah squirmed in Mrs. Chen's arms, reaching for Lucas with an impatient, "Dada!" That broke the tension, making everyone laugh through tears. Is this my nephew? Charlotte asked eagerly. This is Noah, Lucas said, taking him from Mrs. Chen. And this, he reached for Emily's hand, is the woman I'm going to marry. The one who taught me that family is about love, not blood or reputation. Cool. Charlotte grinned. Does this mean I get to be a bridesmaid? The next few hours were a blur of conversation, laughter, and healing. Catherine shared stories about Richard Griffin's softer side, the man who read bedtime stories and attended secret ballet recitals. Mrs. Chen produced photo albums none of them had seen before, showing a young Lucas with his father. He would be proud, Mrs. Chen said softly, watching Lucas help Charlotte and Noah build a block tower. Of man you become, of family you build. Emily watched them play, her future husband, their son, and the sister-in-law she never expected. Her phone buzzed with news alerts about the scandal, about Margaret's arrest, about the Griffin legacy. None of it mattered. Later, as they drove home through the city lights, Noah sleeping in his car seat and Charlotte's phone number saved in their contacts, Lucas finally asked the question she knew had been weighing on him. Are you angry I didn't tell you about Charlotte? No. Emily took his hand. We all have parts of our past we need to face in our own time. What matters is that you chose love over fear, just like you did with Noah and me. I don't deserve you. Too bad. You're stuck with us, she smiled. All of us. Your perfectly imperfect family. They were almost home when Lucas's phone rang. The board demanding another meeting about the scandal, about Margaret's arrest, about the future of Griffin Enterprises. Go, Emily said before he could speak. Handle it, then come home to us. Always, he promised, kissing her deeply. And Emily? Thank you. For showing me that sometimes the best legacies aren't the ones we're born into, but the ones we choose to build. As she watched him drive away, Noah still sleeping peacefully, Emily felt nothing but peace. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, merging their families, planning a wedding, building a future. But tonight, love had won. Real, messy, complicated love. And not even Margaret Griffin, sitting in her jail cell with one final card left to play, could change that. Because some legacies are built on blood and fortune, but the strongest ones are built on choice, on forgiveness, on the kind of love that sees past secrets and shame to the truth beneath. Family isn't just who we're born to. It's who we choose to become, together. 6 months later, Central Park bloomed with spring. Flowers. Emily stood before a mirror in the Plaza Hotel's bridal suite, her wedding dress catching the morning light. Through the window, she could see the spot where she and Lucas would exchange vows in just a few hours. "Mama, pretty." Noah, dapper, in his tiny tuxedo, clapped his hands from where Charlotte was helping him with his bow tie. "The prettiest," Charlotte agreed, now a constant presence in their lives. At 8, she took her role as big sister to Noah and junior bridesmaid very seriously. A knock at the door revealed Mrs. Chen, carrying a small box. "Special delivery," she said, her eyes twinkling. "From groom." Inside was a delicate silver locket. Emily opened it to find 2 photos, one of Noah the day Lucas first held him in his office, and one from last week when Lucas signed Noah's official adoption papers. "He say remind you where story begin," Mrs. Chen explained softly. "And where it going?" Emily's eyes filled with tears. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind of change and joy. Lucas had restructured Griffin Enterprises, creating a foundation for families affected by corporate greed. Charlotte and Catherine had moved to New York, bringing weekly family dinners and impromptu dance parties. Emily had started her teaching degree with Noah attending the campus daycare where she did her practicum. Everything was perfect, which is exactly why she should have expected Margaret's final move. "Mrs. Roberts?" A hotel staff member appeared, at the door. "There's a situation in the lobby. Something about an injunction against the ceremony?" Emily's heart stopped. Charlotte grabbed her hand. "I'll get Lucas." But before she could move, Catherine burst in, face flushed. "You won't believe what your mother's done," she told Charlotte. "She's filed a legal claim from prison, saying Lucas isn't mentally competent to marry or adopt. She's demanding a psychiatric evaluation and temporary control of the company for its protection." "She can't," Emily whispered. "She already has. There's a judge waiting to hear the emergency petition if she succeeds." Catherine's voice cracked. "She'll have power over all of it, the company, the adoption, everything." Emily sank onto a chair, her wedding dress rustling. All their happiness, all their plans threatened by one woman's obsession with control. Then Noah toddled over, patting her cheek with sticky fingers. "No cry, Mama. Dada fix." Something in his innocent faith gave Emily strength. She stood squaring her shoulders. "Where's the judge?" "Emily, you can't go to court in your wedding dress. Watch me." The scene in the hotel lobby was chaos. Reporters clustered outside, guests whispered in corners, and in the center of it all stood Lucas, magnificent, in his tuxedo, facing down a court officer with ice-cold determination. He turned when Emily appeared on the stairs, his face softening with love despite the crisis. "You're not supposed to see me before the ceremony." "Pretty sure that rule doesn't apply when your mother tries to have you declared incompetent on our wedding day." She reached him, taking his hand. "We face this together." The judge had commandeered a conference room where Margaret's lawyer was already presenting his case. Margaret herself appeared via video link from prison, impeccably groomed, despite her circumstances. "Mr. Griffin's recent behavior shows a clear pattern of instability," the lawyer argued. "Giving away company shares to employees, restructuring century-old policies, adopting the child of a woman he barely knows." "A woman I love," Lucas interrupted. "My son's mother, my future wife." "Your client's obsession with this relationship has compromised his judgment," Margaret's lawyer continued. "The board is concerned. The board unanimously supports me," Lucas cut in. "They're all here, in fact, at my wedding." As if on cue, the conference room door opened. Charles Whitman led a parade of board members in, all in formal wear. "Your Honor, we'd like to speak on behalf of our CEO." What followed was extraordinary. One by one, board members testified to Lucas's leadership, his vision, his strength of character. Mrs. Chen spoke about the little boy she'd raised and the man he'd become. Catherine described how Lucas had embraced Charlotte, healing old wounds with love. But it was Noah who changed everything. He'd squirmed away from Charlotte, toddling straight to Lucas with arms raised. "Dada up, fix now?" Lucas lifted him, pressing a kiss to his curls. "Working on it, buddy." "Interesting," the judge mused, watching them. "Mrs. Griffin, you claim your son is unstable, yet I see a man who has built a thriving company, united a divided family, and earned the love of a child who clearly sees him as a father. Perhaps the instability lies elsewhere?" Margaret's face contorted on the video screen. "You don't understand. The Griffin legacy is right here," Lucas said quietly. "In this room. Not in stock prices or society pages, but in love. In family. In the future we choose to build." He looked at his mother, really looked at her. "I forgive you, Mother, for everything, but I won't let you hurt us anymore." The judge's ruling was swift. Petition denied. Margaret's video link went dark without another word. "Well," Emily said into the stunned silence, "shall we have a wedding?" The ceremony was more beautiful for being delayed. Under a canopy of spring blossoms surrounded by their chosen family, Lucas and Emily exchanged vows while Noah and Charlotte scattered rose petals with enthusiastic abandon. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the officiant declared. "And by the power vested in me, I also officially recognize the adoption of Noah Roberts Griffin by Lucas Griffin." Their first kiss as a married couple was interrupted by Noah launching himself at their legs. Lucas scooped him up, including him in their embrace as guests cheered, and Charlotte threw the last of her petals directly at them. At the reception, Lucas pulled Emily onto the dance floor for their first dance. Noah was asleep in Mrs. Chen's lap. Charlotte was teaching Catherine's boyfriend the latest TikTok dance, and their strange, wonderful, chosen family filled the room with joy. "Happy?" Lucas murmured against her hair. "Perfect," Emily replied. Then, because she knew him so well, "Stop worrying about your mother. She can't hurt us anymore." "I know." He pulled back to meet her eyes. "Because you taught me what real family means, what real love can do. We taught each other." She touched the locket at her throat. "Full circle, remember? From that morning in your office to here." Speaking of full circle," his eyes sparkled. "Remember what you said about maybe adopting more kids someday?" Emily's heart skipped. "Lucas?" Charlotte mentioned that her best friend at school is in foster care. Apparently she has a baby brother. Emily kissed him, feeling his smile against her lips. Around them, their family laughed and celebrated. The spring air was sweet with possibility, and their future stretched out bright and beautiful before them. Up in her prison cell, Margaret Griffin watched the wedding photos appear on social media. Her grandson in his tiny tuxedo, her granddaughter scattering flowers, her son radiantly happy with his bride. Slowly, she opened her desk drawer and removed a pen and paper. It was time, perhaps, to write a different kind of legacy. "Dear Lucas," she began, "I'm sorry." Back at the reception, Noah had woken up just enough to demand a dance with his parents. Lucas and Emily held him between them, swaying gently, as the New York City skyline glittered beyond the windows. "Love you, Dada," Noah mumbled sleepily. "Love you, Mama." "Love you too, sweet boy," they answered together, their rings catching the light as their hands linked over their son's back. Because in the end, that's what family is. Not a name or a legacy or a corporate empire, but this: love, freely, given and joyfully returned. A choice made every day to belong to each other. A story that begins again and again, with each "I love you," each tiny moment, each new chapter yet to come. And for the Griffin Roberts family, this was just the beginning. If you were Emily, would you have trusted Lucas after the fake news about his supposed daughter with the model? Or would you have let your fears and insecurities take over as they almost did? What does this reveal about your own view of trust and love? Leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below, letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.